Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome to the channel. This is Living in Alberta, and today we're going to look at a hot topic. Let's take a look at moving from Ontario to Alberta. Is it still worth it in 2023? Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Kyle. Welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. On this channel, we break down everything when it comes to moving to or living in Alberta. So if you do want to see more videos like this one, hit that subscribe button. Definitely click that notification bell so you are notified every single week when a new video comes out. And if you would like any help with your real estate needs, use this information popping up on the screen right now. I am a licensed realtor in the province. You can get a hold of me any way you know how. Would love to hear from you. All right, with that being said, let's get right into it. All right, I made this kind of a similar video about a year and a half ago. We did a little comparison of Ontario versus Alberta. So in today's video, we're gonna kind of revisit that. We're gonna look at what has changed and is it still worth it to move to Alberta?
You have to listen to me, okay?
Okay.
All right, let's start off by talking about the real estate market and the interest rates. Now, a year and a half ago, interest rates were at an all-time low. They were at historic lows. People were getting into mortgages in the high ones and the low twos. And what that did is it created a buying frenzy. Everyone was looking to take advantage of these low interest rates and get into a home.
We're buying a house, a really nice house.
But what that did is it created an unrealistic, hyperinflated real estate market that, in my opinion, was not good for anyone and wasn't good for the economy. Now, it wasn't as crazy out in Alberta as it was in Ontario. In Ontario, homes were going for well over asking price, like way over asking price.
Too much. This is too much. This is too much.
Buyers were buying these homes with no conditions. And if you were a buyer in this situation, it was a very stressful experience.
Why does it have to be like this?
This is just so hard.
Stop crying.
Not only were you buying with no conditions, but sometimes you're writing, 10, 12, 15 offers before you even get an accepted one and are able to get into a home. Now, if you were a seller in this situation, at first glance, it seemed like you had won the lottery. And in a way, it was like having a winning lottery ticket.
I just won the goddamn lottery.
All you had to do was throw a sign up on your front yard. You had multiple offers, multiple showings. Your home was selling for way over asking price. No conditions, boom, done deal. Now, if you were staying in Ontario and you weren't moving to a cheaper market like Alberta, you now had become a buyer in this situation, and that fun parade was now over. You were now on the stressful side, and it wasn't such a good time anymore. Now, you had to suspect that the real estate market in Ontario had to be at or near the top of the market. Fast forward to what it is today, and you've seen the Bank of Canada increase interest rates, trying to curb the inflation. And we'll get into inflation here in a minute, but interest rates are much higher than they were, and home prices have now peaked and they are on the decline. Now, you might look at this as crap. I missed the peak. I wasn't able to time the market. By the way, no one has a crystal ball. No one can time the market, so don't beat yourself up over it.
If my crystal ball will speak to me.
What do you see in the ball?
I see nothing.
But if you were to sell your house now, you are still selling near the peak of the market. So maybe if you've only owned your home for a year, it might not make a lot of sense to sell. You might not be in a positive equity situation. But if you have owned your home for a long time, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, there still is a lot of appreciation that has occurred in that property, and you do have a ton of equity in your home. So if you do sell, you are, like I said, selling close to the peak, and you are going to make a lot of money on your property still. Now, if we look at the cost of real estate from Alberta to Ontario, and if we just compare the major centers, so we have Edmonton and Calgary in Alberta, and obviously the biggest center in Ontario is Toronto. The cost of owning a home in Alberta's two major centers in Calgary and Edmonton is 1/3 the cost of owning a home in Toronto. And now, just like anywhere else, if you get into our mid-sized cities in Alberta and rural Alberta, home prices obviously become even more affordable. But you can take this money that you are making on your home when you're selling it in Ontario. Like I said, you're not at the peak, but you are still making a decent amount of money on your home. And you can come to Alberta and you can buy a home for cash. So that same home that's maybe $1 million plus in Ontario, you can buy that same type of home in Edmonton, for example, for $400,000 to $450,000. So you can pay cash for your home, or at the very least, you can take out a small mortgage. And this sets you up for success, I guess, in a way, is the only way to put it. Now you can start investing in real estate properties if you want. You have money to travel. If you want to play the stock market, you can play the stock market, although I would highly suggest you invest in real estate instead of stocks.
But don't take my word for it.
Because he's a bit of a moron.
You can set yourself up for retirement, and even more importantly, I talk to people from Ontario and all over the country every single week. One of the most common themes, one of the most important themes for people deciding to move from Ontario to Alberta is because they want to set their children up for the ability to be able to afford a home when the time has come, or a lot of them are at that stage right now and they're ready to buy a home. But they say if they stayed in Ontario, the dream of home ownership is just not doable for young people. You have to have such a high income there that it's just not doable.
We can't even afford this house anymore.
This is so frustrating.
So in my opinion, yes, it still makes a lot of sense to sell your home in Ontario and move to a cheaper market like Alberta. You can buy your home for cash. Again, if you want to travel, you can do that. If you want to increase your rental portfolio, there's just so many different options when you have that disposable income. And again, so many people are coming here so that they can set their children up for success and have that dream of home ownership in the future. Now let's take a look at the second thing that has changed significantly since I made this video a year and a half ago, and that is inflation. Inflation has been a hot topic over the last little while. A lot of people across the nation are really feeling the pinch from these rising costs of living. Now, in my opinion, it makes even more sense to move to a province that has a much more affordable cost of living because of this inflation. The Bank of Canada seems intent on getting inflation down to 2%. I'll link to an article by Tim Macleod where the range is 1 to 3%, but for some reason they're hell-bent on getting that down to 2%. And I think right now they're sitting at 6.8%. So obviously I don't have a crystal ball, I'm not an economist, but to me that says that you're probably going to see interest rates climb a little bit more through 2023. At least for the first half of 2023 anyways. But I don't think they'll be as aggressive as they were in 2022, but unfortunately, I think they are still going to go up. Now, if we're talking about inflation and moving to a province with a better cost of living, and we talk about these interest rates, when you're looking at an average price of, $900,000, $1 million plus, compared to that same type of home here in Alberta for $400,000 to $450,000, that interest rate is going to be significant when it comes to your monthly payment. Now, if we look at some other factors when it comes to cost of living, across the country, a lot of the things are going to be pretty similar, such as groceries and utilities, but one of the major expenses that everyone has every single month is paying for gas. Alberta always has the cheapest gas in the country. So at the time of making this video, and yes, this is just today, I realize that this could change 2 days from now or tomorrow, but Alberta is sitting at $1.24 and Ontario is sitting at $1.45.8. So that can be a significant cost every month, especially if you do lots of driving, you do lots of commuting. That gas bill is a very important one to consider. Now let's talk about something that gets brought up all the time, and that's the provincial sales tax. Now I think people in Alberta can really take for granted just how lucky we are not to have any provincial sales tax compared to the rest of the country.
This is unbelievable.
That is exactly what I'm saying. Exactly.
I was reading an article yesterday. It was called No Provincial Sales Tax, the Gift That Keeps on Giving. And basically what they did is they broke down the numbers on how much Alberta saved through the holidays, just buying things like toys, candies, decorations, different things like that, all the normal things you'd buy through the holidays. Per person, Alberta saved about $80 each, and that equaled to about $184 million that was not collected in taxes and remained in Albertans' pockets. So that is a significant amount of savings, and these aren't even big ticket items. When you get into vehicles and toys like quads and skidoos, boats, UTVs, you're really going to notice it, and everyone that moves here from Ontario as well as British Columbia and in provinces that have provincial sales tax, they love it and they're pleasantly surprised just how much they are saving every single month, because a lot of the times they didn't really expect that. It's not something that they thought about. Now let's briefly touch on the weather, comparing Ontario to Alberta. Obviously, Ontario is a much more humid climate. It's very dry out here in Alberta. Throughout the winter time, I find myself having to use lotion all the time. The knuckles on my hands, they get super dry, and it's actually quite annoying for the most part. I will say that, we get some very cold extremes here in Alberta. For example, the beginning of the winter time, November 1st, right after Halloween, we got a huge snow dump. It went from like 0 to -25.
I can't stand it. I'm freezing to death.
Then it warmed up again. And then right before Christmas, we set some records out here for cold. Red Deer was -38.6 without the wind chill, which broke a record. Rocky Mountain House was -42 degrees, and that's again without the wind chill. So that lasted for about a week, but since then it's been +5 to -10 the entire time. And I will say that people that I've helped move here from Ontario, they comment to me all the time. They love how sunny it is here.
I love it here! I'm gonna move here!
They absolutely love the sun here. It just makes that winter a little bit more enjoyable. We will get some colder snaps here. In Ontario, it still gets to -30 as well though, but in Alberta, I think you're going to have, higher highs and lower lows, and it is going to be a little more extreme out here. And throughout the summertime too, we get some crazy weather, some crazy thunderstorms, especially in this central Alberta area from Lacombe down to High River. We get some crazy storms in the summertime, as well as some hail. I think we talked about it a few videos ago. We got hit with a major hailstorm this year up here in the Red Deer area. It's the first time in my life that I've actually had to put in a claim. I had to get my shingles redone. Some of my siding was dented up. My garage doors were dented up. So there is definitely some things to consider when it comes to the weather in regards to whether or not you should move here. We definitely have longer winters and it is going to be colder here, but there are some advantages to living in Alberta as well. And finally, a little bit of fun here. In the last video, we talked about hockey and the teams that we have in Ontario versus Alberta. Nothing has changed on that front. Actually, there has been one thing that has changed. Calgary has gotten worse. Gaudreau and Tkachuk, they didn't even want to play there anymore. They requested to have a trade, but the Oilers still are the best team in the NHL.
Oh, there's no way we can beat such a great team.
Draisaitl, McDavid, they are kicking ass this year. McDavid is on a tear. I know the Maple Leafs, they're doing pretty good right now. So, hey, I can kind of understand you cheering for Toronto. But really, if you're coming to Alberta, I've said it time and time again, you're going to want to be an Oilers fan if you want to be on the right side of the tracks here in Alberta. Anyways, guys, a little bit of a joke there at the end. I'm a huge Oilers fan, as you all probably know. But in my opinion, I do think it's still worth moving to Alberta. Even though you may not have timed the peak of the market perfectly out in Ontario, you still are selling close to that peak, and you're going to make a lot of money in your home if you have owned your home for a decent amount of time. When we look at inflation that's been rising across the country, I think that makes it even more important to move to a province that has a cheaper cost of living. In Alberta, again, we talked about it, we always have the cheapest gas prices, and something that people don't always take into consideration is that we do not have that provincial sales tax here, which can add up to massive amounts of savings. Now, with that being said, everyone has a unique situation. You definitely shouldn't listen to some guy on YouTube telling whether or not you should move. I just want to try and be as transparent as possible and give you guys my honest opinion and some of the facts. So if you did enjoy the video, guys, I'd really appreciate if you hit the like button and hit that subscribe button. Maybe you click that notification bell so you are notified every week when a new video comes out. And of course, if you would like any help with the real estate needs, I'm a licensed realtor here in Alberta, so you can use this information popping up. Get a hold of me any way you know how. Would love to hear from you. All right, I will see you guys next week. Cheers.